Rain hammered the hood of the black sedan as it idled beneath the flickering streetlight. Judge Malcolm Reeves, broad-shouldered, 53, composed even in stillness, sat behind the wheel, his eyes fixed on the blur of wipers cutting through the storm. He'd just left a late judicial conference. His suit jacket hung over the passenger seat, and a leather case of files lay beside it, sealed with the crest of the Supreme Court. Then came the siren. A sharp, slicing scream that ripped through the rain. Blue and red lights flooded the street. Reeves sighed, eased the car to the curb, rolled down his window halfway. A flashlight beam struck his face. "License and registration," the officer barked. No greeting, no reason. His voice carried that casual hostility that came from habit, not accident. Reeves moved slowly, deliberate. "Officer, may I ask?" "Don't talk. Hands on the wheel." The beam wobbled, catching on the papers marked confidential judicial material. The officer smirked. "Big man, huh? You people always got a story." Something inside Reeves went still. Not anger, something colder. The storm outside felt quieter than the silence in his chest. He handed over his ID. The officer glanced once, then tossed it back into his lap, unread. "Sit tight, boy." Reeves's jaw tightened. "What did you call me?" The officer leaned closer, rain dripping off his cap. "You heard me. Don't move." He walked back to his cruiser, laughing into his radio. The laugh echoed in Reeves's ears, until a crack of lightning illuminated the name on the cruiser door. Sergeant Bradley Cooper. Reeves's eyes narrowed. The name was already familiar. He'd seen it on a case file scheduled for review next week. And now the storm was just beginning. Rain came harder now, blurring the world into streaks of silver and shadow. The wipers struggled, their rhythm slow, mechanical, tired. Judge Malcolm Reeves tightened his hands on the wheel. He'd driven this route home for 20 years. Same streetlights, same corner store sign buzzing through the drizzle. Then came the flash of blue. He pulled over, engine idling. The window rolled down halfway. A flashlight stabbed through the darkness. "Evening," said a voice laced with authority and disdain. "License and registration." Reeves nodded. "Of course, officer. May I ask the reason?" Hands on the wheel. The command cracked through the rain. Reeves froze, palms open. "I'm complying." "Good," the officer muttered, circling the car. Boots splashed through puddles. "Dark night, nice car. Mind telling me where you're headed?" "Home. I'm returning from where?" "A conference downtown." "Conference, huh?" A snort. "You a lawyer or something?" Reeves's lips tightened. "Something like that." The officer leaned closer, beam glinting off his badge. Sergeant Bradley Cooper. The name was delivered like a warning. Cooper's eyes drifted over the back seat. "Any weapons?" "No." "Drugs?" "No." "You seem nervous." "I'm cold," Reeves said. "And I'd appreciate—" "Step out of the vehicle." Reeves hesitated. "Officer, I've done nothing." I said step out. The door opened to the hiss of rain. Reeves stood in the glare of headlights, soaked immediately. His wallet and ID sat in Cooper's hand. "Malcolm Reeves," Cooper read. "That a local name?" Reeves stared at him. "It's mine," Cooper smirked. "Got an attitude, huh?" He tossed the ID back. "Funny, you look familiar. Maybe from one of those protest videos." A second cruiser arrived. Another officer stepped out, uncertain. Cooper motioned casually. "Probable DUI, let's check the trunk." Reeves exhaled sharply. "You have no cause. Now you're resisting." Phones lit up in the distance, bystanders recording from doorways. The rain shimmered under their glow. "Put your hands behind your back," Cooper said. Reeves looked at him fully, voice low. "You're making a mistake." Cooper's laugh cut through the night. "The only mistake here is thinking your skin makes you special." The cuff snapped shut. Cold, biting metal. Reeves didn't resist. He lifted his eyes, expression unreadable. "Take him in," Cooper ordered, waving to the tow truck arriving behind him. "Impound the car." Might be stolen anyway. As the sedan was lifted from the curb, Reeves stood motionless. Rain ran down his face, indistinguishable from the tears he refused to shed. From across the street, someone whispered, "That man. He looks like Judge Reeves." But the thunder swallowed the words, and Cooper never looked back. Morning light crept through the blinds like judgment itself, thin, colorless, merciless. Judge Malcolm Reeves sat at his kitchen table, unmoving, his coffee untouched. The night's rain still clung to the city. Puddles glittered outside the window like broken glass. His wife Lorraine stood at the counter, the remote in her hand. Every channel was the same. Breaking overnight, police arrest unidentified black male after tense altercation. The video looped again, flashing lights and officer shouting, the suspect compliant. The camera shook. Someone gasped. Then came the frame everyone replayed. A man in a soaked dress shirt, his hands cuffed, face turned away from the camera. Lorraine turned the volume down. "They're saying you were drunk." Reeves didn't answer. His eyes stayed fixed on the screen, watching himself like he was watching someone else, someone smaller, humiliated, stripped of name and authority. "You should call the Chief Justice," she said quietly. "No. You have to. I will not fight this on television." His voice was steady, but his knuckles whitened against the table. "Let them report. Let them talk." Lorraine set the remote down. "They don't even know who you are. They're calling you a civilian agitator." Reeves exhaled. "That's the point, isn't it?" The phone buzzed again. Voicemail after voicemail, reporters, colleagues, one from the mayor's office. Reeves silenced it, each buzz landing like a pulse in his throat. From the TV. The suspect refused multiple lawful commands. He turned it off. Silence fell hard. Lorraine sat across from him, voice trembling. "Malcolm, you've spent your whole career fighting for due process. But this isn't just about law anymore. This is you." He looked at her, eyes calm, hollow. "No, it's them. It's the system that created men like him." She touched his hand. "Then expose it." Reeves stood, walked to the window. Outside, a delivery truck rolled by. A jogger stopped, checking his phone, watching the same video, no doubt. Somewhere, a stranger was forming an opinion about a man they didn't know. "Lorraine," he said quietly, "if I speak too soon, they'll say I'm emotional. If I stay silent, they'll say I'm guilty. Either way, I lose." She crossed her arms. "So you'll just let them write your story for you?" "No." He turned, eyes sharper now. "I'll let them write their story. Then I'll correct the record with evidence." The doorbell rang. Through the frosted glass, a uniformed officer stood, hat in hand. Reeves opened the door slowly. "Judge Reeves," the officer said cautiously, "the department wanted to return your personal effects. The vehicle's been cleared." Reeves glanced at the envelope offered, keys, wallet, papers, still damp. "Thank you." The officer hesitated. "For what it's worth, sir." "I saw the footage." "I'm sorry." Reeves held his gaze. "Then make sure you never have to say it again, to anyone else." The man nodded once and left. Lorraine leaned against the doorway. "He meant well. They always mean well," Reeves murmured. "Meaning changes nothing." He set the envelope on the counter, opened his briefcase, and slid out the file marked Internal Affairs. Sergeant Bradley Cooper. His hand lingered on it. Lorraine frowned. "You already had a file on him?" "Scheduled for review next week," Reeves said. "Misconduct complaints. Excessive force." Two settled quietly. "One pending." Her voice dropped. "You're telling me?" "Yes." "The same man?" A long silence hung between them, heavy as the morning air. Lorraine's jaw tightened. "Then don't stay silent, Malcolm. Make it official. Use your voice before they twist it into something else." He looked past her, toward the muted TV screen where his own blurred face had frozen mid-frame. "Not yet. If I act now, it's personal. I need it to be systemic." "Systemic?" she echoed bitterly. "The system just handcuffed you in the street." Reeves turned away. "Then it will handcuff itself if I do this right." The clock ticked. Outside, sirens wailed faintly in the distance. He finally sat, pulling a legal pad toward him. His pen hovered above it, motionless. "Every word I write," he said under his breath, "must be unassailable." Lorraine watched him, a tear tracing her cheek. "You still believe the law can fix what people break?" "I have to," he replied softly. "Otherwise, I'd be no different from them." The pen met paper. Notes began forming, dates, case references, statutes. The rhythm of law against chaos, as he wrote. A newscaster's voice faintly rose from a neighbor's television next door. "Police officials confirm the suspect from last night's controversial arrest is, in fact, Supreme Court Justice Malcolm Reeves." Lorraine froze. Reeves didn't stop writing. His hand trembled, but the line of ink stayed straight. The war had gone public, and this time, silence would be strategy, not surrender. The precinct smelled of burnt coffee and old arrogance. The night shift had just turned over, uniforms half-tucked, laughter low and lazy. Sergeant Bradley Cooper sat at his desk, spinning a pen between his fingers, retelling the story of the uptight black driver he'd cuffed the night before. Guy thought he was some kind of VIP. Cooper chuckled. Talked real proper, too. Probably a college professor or one of those activists. Laughter rippled through the room, thin, nervous laughter that said we're in too deep to object now. His partner, Officer Diaz, didn't laugh. He leaned back, arms crossed, eyes on the scuffed tile floor. Did you even run his plates? Clean, Cooper said. Doesn't matter. He was mouthy. Mouthy doesn't Rain came harder now, blurring the world into streaks of silver and shadow. The wipers struggled, their rhythm slow, mechanical, tired. Judge Malcolm Reeves tightened his hands on the wheel. He'd driven this route home for 20 years. Same streetlights, same corner store sign buzzing through the drizzle. Then came the flash of blue. He pulled over, engine idling. The window rolled down halfway. A flashlight stabbed through the darkness. Evening, said a voice laced with authority and disdain. License and registration, Reeves nodded. Of course, officer. May I ask the reason? Hands on the wheel. The command cracked through the rain. Reeves froze, palms open. I'm complying. Good, the officer muttered, circling the car. Boots splashed through puddles. Dark night, nice car? Mind telling me where you're headed? Home, I'm returning from where? A conference downtown. Conference, huh? A snort. You a lawyer or something? Reeves's lips tightened. Something like that. The officer leaned closer, beam glinting off his badge. Sergeant Bradley Cooper. The name was delivered like a warning. Cooper's eyes drifted over the back seat. Any weapons? No. Drugs? No. You seem nervous. I'm cold, Reeves said. And I'd appreciate... Step out of the vehicle. Reeves hesitated. Officer, I've done nothing, I said. Step out. The door opened to the hiss of rain. Reeves stood in the glare of headlights, soaked immediately. His wallet and ID sat in Cooper's hand. Malcolm Reeves, Cooper read. That a local name? Reeves stared at him. It's mine, Cooper smirked. Got an attitude, huh? He tossed the ID back. Funny, you look familiar. Maybe from one of those protest videos. A second cruiser arrived. Another officer stepped out, uncertain. Cooper motioned casually. Probable DUI. Let's check the trunk. Reeves exhaled sharply. You have no cause. Now you're resisting. Phones lit up in the distance, bystanders recording from doorways. The rain shimmered under their glow. Put your hands behind your back, Cooper said. Reeves looked at him fully, voice low. You're making a mistake. Cooper's laugh cut through the night. The only mistake here is thinking your skin makes you special. The cuffs snapped shut. Cold biting metal. Reeves didn't resist. He lifted his eyes, expression unreadable. Take him in, Cooper ordered, waving to the tow truck arriving behind him. Impound the car. Might be stolen anyway. As the sedan was lifted from the curb, Reeves stood motionless. Rain ran down his face, indistinguishable from the tears he refused to shed. From across the street, someone whispered, That man. He looks like Judge Reeves. But the thunder swallowed the words, and Cooper never looked back. Morning light crept through the blinds like judgment itself, thin, colorless, merciless. Judge Malcolm Reeves sat at his kitchen table, unmoving, his coffee untouched. The night's rain still clung to the city. Puddles glittered outside the window like broken glass. His wife Lorraine stood at the counter, the remote in her hand. Every channel was the same. Breaking overnight. Police arrest unidentified black male after tense altercation. The video looped again. Flashing lights, an officer shouting, the suspect compliant. The camera shook. Someone gasped. Then came the frame everyone replayed. A man in a soaked dress shirt, his hands cuffed, face turned away from the camera. Lorraine turned the volume down. They're saying you were drunk, Reeves didn't answer. His eyes stayed fixed on the screen, watching himself like he was watching someone else, someone smaller, humiliated, stripped of name and authority. You should call the Chief Justice, she said quietly. No. You have to. I will not fight this on television. His voice was steady, but his knuckles whitened against the table. Let them report. Let them talk, Lorraine set the remote down. They don't even know who you are. They're calling you a civilian agitator. Reeves exhaled. That's the point, isn't it? The phone buzzed again. Voicemail after voicemail, reporters, colleagues, one from the mayor's office. Reeves silenced it, each buzz landing like a pulse in his throat. From the TV. The suspect refused multiple lawful commands. He turned it off. Silence fell hard. Lorraine sat across from him, voice trembling. Malcolm, you've spent your whole career fighting for due process. But this isn't just about law anymore. This is you. He looked at her, eyes calm, hollow. No, it's them. It's the system that created men like him. She touched his hand. Then expose it. Reeves stood, walked to the window. Outside, a delivery truck rolled by. A jogger stopped, checking his phone, watching the same video, no doubt. Somewhere, a stranger was forming an opinion about a man they didn't know. Lorraine, he said quietly. If I speak too soon, they'll say I'm emotional. If I stay silent, they'll say I'm guilty. Either way, I lose. She crossed her arms. So you'll just let them write your story for you? No. He turned, eyes sharper now. I'll let them write their story. Then I'll correct the record with evidence. The doorbell rang. Through the frosted glass, a uniformed officer stood, hat in hand. Reeves opened the door slowly. Judge Reeves, the officer said cautiously, the department wanted to return your personal effects. The vehicle's been cleared. Reeves glanced at the envelope offered. Keys, wallet, papers, still damp. Thank you, the officer hesitated. For what it's worth, sir. I saw the footage. I'm sorry, Reeves held his gaze. Then make sure you never have to say it again to anyone else. The man nodded once and left. Lorraine leaned against the doorway. He meant well. They always mean well, Reeves murmured. Meaning changes nothing. He set the envelope on the counter, opened his briefcase, and slid out the file marked Internal Affairs. Sergeant Bradley Cooper. His hand lingered on it. Lorraine frowned. You already had a file on him? Scheduled for review next week, Reeves said. Misconduct complaints. Excessive force. 2 settled quietly. 1 pending, her voice dropped. You're telling me, yes, the same man. A long silence hung between them, heavy as the morning air. Lorraine's jaw tightened. Then don't stay silent, Malcolm. Make it official. Use your voice before they twist it into something else. He looked past her toward the muted TV screen, where his own blurred face had frozen mid-frame. Not yet. If I act now, it's personal. I need it to be systemic. Systemic? She echoed bitterly. The system just handcuffed you in the street. Reeves turned away. Then it will handcuff itself if I do this right. The clock ticked. Outside, sirens wailed faintly in the distance. He finally sat, pulling a legal pad toward him. His pen hovered above it, motionless. Every word I write, he said under his breath, must be unassailable. Lorraine watched him, a tear tracing her cheek. You still believe the law can fix what people break? I have to, he replied softly. Otherwise, I'd be no different from them. The pen met paper. Notes began forming, dates, case references, statutes. The rhythm of law against chaos. As he wrote, a newscaster's voice faintly rose from a neighbor's television next door. Police officials confirm the suspect from last night's controversial arrest is, in fact, Supreme Court Justice Malcolm Reeves. Lorraine froze. Reeves didn't stop writing. His hand trembled, but the line of ink stayed straight. The war had gone public, and this time silence would be strategy, not surrender. The precinct smelled of burnt coffee and old arrogance. The night shift had just turned over. Uniforms half-tucked, laughter low and lazy. Sergeant Bradley Cooper sat at his desk, spinning a pen between his fingers, retelling the story of the uptight black driver he'd cuffed the night before. Guy thought he was some kind of VIP. Cooper chuckled. Talked real proper, too. Probably a college professor or one of those activists. Laughter rippled through the room. Thin, nervous laughter that said we're in too deep to object now. His partner, Officer Diaz, didn't laugh. He leaned back, arms crossed, eyes on the scuffed tile floor. Did you even run his plates? Clean, Cooper said. Doesn't matter. He was mouthy. Mouthy doesn't mean probable cause, Cooper smirked. You starting to sound like Internal Affairs. Diaz's jaw clenched. Because they're going to ask. You know the cameras caught it, so what? Cooper threw the pen onto the desk. Every stop these days is a circus. They'll move on by tomorrow. You think command's gonna hang me for stopping some nobody? Diaz didn't answer. He stood, walked toward the locker room. From the corner, Sergeant Evans, a veteran with too many medals and not enough conscience, spoke up. Relax, Cooper. You've got backing upstairs. Just keep your mouth shut, see? Cooper grinned, confidence returning. That's what I'm talking about. Chain of command. We protect our own. But the words sounded hollower than he expected. He turned toward the bulletin board, a collage of headlines, commendations, missing persons. Somewhere among them a printout was taped. Viral video sparks police review. The still image showed his own face, half shadowed by rain, frozen mid-command. Hands on the wheel, he ripped it down, crumpling it. Idiots shouldn't post this crap in here. In the captain's office, blinds half closed, two voices murmured. Captain Reynolds and Internal Affairs Officer Mitchell were reviewing footage on a laptop. Mitchell's tone was flat. You see what I see? Reynolds nodded slowly. Yeah, he went too far. But this department's already under federal review. We can't afford another scandal, so you're burying it. I'm managing it. Mitchell leaned forward. He handcuffed a man who didn't resist. He mocked him on tape. You think that's manageable? Reynolds sighed. We don't know who the victim is yet. Then you'd better pray he's not someone important. Outside the office, Cooper passed by, catching only fragments of their conversation. His own name, the word suspension, the word optics. His stomach tightened. He pushed into the locker room where Diaz was changing. You talked to IA? No. You sure? Diaz zipped up his jacket. You think everyone's out to get you, Brad? Not everyone, Cooper said, voice sharpening. Just the ones who forget who keeps them safe. Diaz stopped, turned to face him. You think that's what you did last night? Keep someone safe? Cooper's jaw flexed. He could have been dangerous. He was wearing a suit, not a ski mask. Cooper stepped closer. You weren't there when he looked at me. You don't know that look, like he thought he was better than me. Diaz shook his head. That's on you, not him. The silence that followed was heavier than any reprimand. From the hallway came footsteps. Officer Mitchell from Internal Affairs. He paused at the doorway. Sergeant Cooper. Captain wants to see you. Cooper swallowed. Now? Now. Inside the captain's office, Reynolds gestured to a chair. Close the door. Cooper obeyed. Reynolds folded his hands. We've reviewed the footage. I followed procedure. No, you didn't. You escalated. Cooper frowned. With respect, sir, that's your interpretation. Reynolds slid a printout across the desk. A still image from the video. Cooper's face lit by flashing lights. Behind him, Reeves cuffed, calm, unreadable. Do you know who this is? The captain asked quietly. Cooper stared, confused. Some driver. Reynolds leaned forward. That driver is Justice Malcolm Reeves. Supreme Court. The room fell silent. For the first time in his career, Cooper had no words. Reynolds continued. There's going to be an internal review. You're on paid leave effective immediately. Turn in your badge and weapon. That's insane. No, Sergeant, Reynolds said coldly. What's insane is humiliating a federal judge on camera. Cooper's face flushed red. You can't hang me out to dry for doing my job. Mitchell, standing in the corner, spoke quietly. Your job doesn't include racism. Cooper slammed his hand on the desk. I didn't know who he was. That's the problem, Mitchell replied. You thought it mattered. Reynolds gestured to the door. You're dismissed. Cooper left the room in silence, the sound of his boots echoing down the hall. Every officer he passed went still. Conversations died mid-sentence. At his locker, Diaz watched him pack. Didn't go well, huh? Cooper didn't look up. They're turning this into politics. Diaz shook his head. No, Brad, it's justice catching up. Cooper slammed the locker shut and walked out into the daylight, the world suddenly too bright. Cameras waited beyond the steps, their lenses already hunting for him. And somewhere downtown, in a courthouse filled with quiet power, Malcolm Reeves prepared to make sure the next chapter would not be buried. The courthouse was a cathedral of order, marble, glass, and silence heavy enough to make even lies whisper. Reporters crowded the steps outside, cameras flashing in bursts of light like miniature lightning. Inside, the air hummed with quiet dread. Judge Malcolm Reeves walked through the security gate without a word. The guards, two of whom had seen the viral footage, lowered their eyes. His robe hung over his arm, the fabric still creased from a night spent untouched. Morning, Justice Reeves, murmured a clerk, voice trembling with the weight of unspoken knowledge. He nodded once. Proceed as usual. In chambers, the murmur of the hallway faded. Reeves placed his briefcase on the desk, opened it, and withdrew the file stamped Departmental Misconduct Hearing, Sergeant Bradley Cooper. For a moment he stared at the name. The same man who had laughed at him in the rain. The same man whose face was now plastered across the nation's screens. Lorraine's words echoed in his head. Expose it. He straightened his robe, buttoned the collar, and stepped into the courtroom. The gavel fell. Court is now in session. Dozens of eyes turned toward him. Lawyers, officers, journalists. At the defense table sat Cooper, stripped of his swagger, uniform replaced by a plain navy suit. His jaw was set, but his eyes darted between the cameras and the man behind the bench. For a heartbeat, recognition didn't land. Then it did. The blood drained from Cooper's face. Reeves met his gaze, steady, cold, exact. Whispers rippled through the room. The press realized simultaneously who the judge was. Microphones rose. Phones tilted for clearer angles. One reporter whispered to another, "That's him. That's the man from the video." Cooper's lawyer leaned in quickly. "Sergeant, don't react. Cooper swallowed. "That's the—" "Don't." Reeves lifted the first document. "Proceed with the case of internal disciplinary misconduct. File number 441B. Officer Bradley Cooper, you stand accused of procedural violations, use of excessive force, and falsified reports." His tone was clinical, but every word sliced clean. Cooper's attorney rose. "Your Honor, given recent publicity, we request this hearing be postponed to ensure impartiality." Reeves didn't look up. "Denied. With respect, sir, the media attention. This court operates by law, not by optics." The room fell quiet. A witness was called. Officer Diaz. He stepped forward, eyes down. He looked 10 years older than the night before. Reeves gestured toward him. "Officer Diaz, you were present during the arrest in question?" "Yes, sir." "Describe the suspect's behavior. Compliant, calm. Did he resist?" "No, sir." "Did Sergeant Cooper have reason to initiate detainment?" Diaz hesitated. Cooper glared at him, silent threat behind his eyes. Reeves said quietly, "You are under oath, officer." Diaz swallowed. "No, sir." "He didn't." A hush fell across the room. Cooper's lawyer shifted uneasily. "Your Honor, my client believed there was a weapon. Did he state probable cause at the scene?" Reeves interrupted. The lawyer stammered. "Not explicitly." "Then this court will consider his conduct beyond the bounds of professional duty." Cooper's face twitched. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" he muttered under his breath. Reeves looked directly at him. "This isn't enjoyment, Sergeant. This is consequence," the gallery murmured again. A journalist whispered into her recorder. "Supreme Court Justice presides over case involving his own assailant." Reeves struck the gavel once. Order, but inside the restraint burned like acid. He could still see the rain on the street, the cuffs, the laughter. He wanted to ask why. He wanted to hear the man say it out loud, that it was about skin, about power, about everything Reeves had spent his life fighting against. Instead, he said, "Court will recess for 15 minutes. As he left the bench, he caught sight of Cooper's eyes, confused, cornered, desperate to regain ground. Reeves turned away before the urge to speak overcame him. In chambers, his clerk approached nervously. "Sir, the press is requesting comment." "No, they're calling this the irony of justice. Let them call it what they want." He loosened his collar, looked out the window. The courtyard below teemed with cameras. Somewhere in that sea of noise, truth was being twisted into spectacle. A knock. The door opened. "It was Captain Reynolds, Justice Reeves," he said quietly. "For what it's worth, none of us knew." "If I had, you'd have stopped it?" Reeves turned to face him. "Would you?" Reynolds hesitated. "Maybe not soon enough." Reeves studied him, eyes cold. "Then timing is your department's disease." The captain lowered his head. "He'll be off the force. I will make sure." Reeves nodded once. "Make sure the process is clean." "I want no technicalities saving him." Reynolds exhaled. "Yes, sir." When the recess ended, the courtroom reassembled. Cooper sat rigid, jaw tight. His lawyer had given up trying to spin the narrative. Reeves returned to the bench. "This hearing will continue tomorrow. The court will review full disciplinary records." He paused, voice lowering just slightly. "Justice requires patience." Then the gavel fell again, sharp, final, echoing through the marble hall. Outside, the press erupted. Justice Reeves presides over case involving his own false arrest. Calls for police reform intensify. But inside the courthouse, Reeves sat in silence long after everyone had gone. On his desk lay Cooper's file, damp with the sweat of his own hand. The irony wasn't justice, it was exposure, and exposure, Reeves knew, was only the first step toward change. He leaned back, closed his eyes. The storm outside had stopped. But the one inside had only just begun. By dawn, the courthouse was a fortress of cameras and caution tape. Reporters filled the steps like vultures, their microphones pointed toward the doors where truth was expected to appear. Inside, the air was tense. Clerks whispered, phones buzzed, and every corridor smelled faintly of coffee and unease. Justice Malcolm Reeves entered through the East Hall, robe draped over one arm. He moved deliberately, expression unreadable, but inside his thoughts were blades, sharp, measured, dangerous. This was no longer about one man's humiliation. It was about a system that had learned to breathe racism so quietly it thought itself pure. The session resumed at 9 sharp. Cooper sat at the defense table again, flanked by his attorney, posture stiff. Gone was the swagger. What remained was defiance wrapped in fear. Case 441B continues, Reeves announced, voice steady. Officer testimony and administrative review. Internal Affairs Officer Mitchell took the stand. His gray suit was neat, his voice restrained. Your Honor, over the past 5 years, Sergeant Cooper has accumulated 7 citizen complaints. 3 involved racial profiling, 2 involved procedural misconduct, and 1 resulted in departmental settlement. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Cooper's lawyer rose. Objection, Your Honor. These prior incidents are irrelevant to the present case. Reeves replied evenly. They establish pattern and precedent. Overruled. Mitchell continued, sliding documents across to the clerk. Each case was reviewed internally, but the reports show inconsistencies, missing footage, unsigned witness statements, altered timestamps. Reeves leaned forward. Altered by whom? Mitchell hesitated. We can't confirm, but all were filed under Sergeant Cooper's supervisory access. Cooper slammed his hand on the table. That's not proof. Reeves's gaze locked on him. You will not speak out of turn. Cooper sat back, breathing hard. A reporter scribbled frantically from the back row. Another whispered into a live feed. The courtroom feels less like a trial, more like a reckoning. Reeves turned to Mitchell. Continue. After reviewing the arrest footage from last week, Mitchell said, it's clear Sergeant Cooper initiated escalation without cause. The suspect, Justice Reeves, was compliant. The verbal tone used, the handcuffing without stated charge. None of it aligns with departmental protocol. Reeves's fingers tightened around the gavel. He didn't blink. Submit your findings to record. Mitchell stepped down. Next came Captain Reynolds. His voice carried the weight of bureaucracy. Your Honor, the department regrets the incident. It does not represent our values. Reeves's tone cut through the air like glass. Your department's values allowed it. The captain faltered. Sir, we've begun reviewing procedures. Procedures aren't the problem, Reeves said. Culture is. A wave of quiet followed. Even the press stopped moving. Tell me, Captain, Reeves continued, how many complaints were ignored because they were inconvenient? Reynolds hesitated. I don't have that figure. Find it. The gavel struck once. This court demands full internal audit results within 72 hours. Every suppressed complaint, every redacted line. Reynolds nodded stiffly. Understood. As he stepped away, Cooper leaned toward his attorney, whispering harshly, He's making this personal. Reeves heard it. Personal? He repeated aloud. The law becomes personal only when it's broken, Sergeant. The courtroom froze. Cooper glared up. You think sitting behind that bench makes you better than me? Reeves's reply was ice. It makes me accountable in ways you've never imagined. Silence pressed against the walls. The defense lawyer rose quickly. Your Honor, we request an adjournment for the day. My client is under significant emotional stress. Reeves nodded once. Granted. Court will reconvene tomorrow at 10. The gavel fell, echoing off marble, but as the crowd rose, a murmur swelled, a different kind of noise, one that lived beyond the walls. The hallway outside was a corridor of voices, cameras, and protest signs. Justice for Reeves. Accountability for all. No one above the law. As Reeves exited through the private stairwell, his clerk followed. Sir, the Attorney General just called. They're watching the proceedings closely. Of course they are. They said your impartiality is being questioned. Reeves stopped mid-step. By whom? The mayor's office. They want you to step down from the hearing, citing conflict of interest. He looked toward the courthouse windows, where sunlight struck the marble floor like interrogation lamps. They're not wrong, he said, but I won't give them the satisfaction. The clerk frowned. So you'll stay? Yes. He adjusted his robe. I started this by being silent. I won't end it that way. Back inside the courtroom, Cooper lingered, speaking in low tones with his lawyer. He's got it out for me, he hissed. They're setting me up as the scapegoat. The lawyer didn't look up. Maybe you made yourself one. Cooper shoved his chair back. You think this system actually wants justice? It wants optics. I'm the sacrifice so they can pretend to fix what they'll never touch. The lawyer sighed. Then maybe, Sergeant, it's time to ask yourself what you helped build. Outside, chants grew louder. Reeves paused near the exit, watching through the glass doors. Protesters waved signs, voices rising in rhythm. Some called his name, others cursed the badge. He felt neither pride nor comfort, just exhaustion. Lorraine's words came back again. Expose it. He whispered under his breath. Exposure isn't justice. It's the beginning of it. And as the crowd roared beyond the glass, Justice Reeves knew the next hearing wouldn't just decide one officer's fate. It would decide how much truth the system could survive before collapsing under its own weight. The precinct felt different. Quiet. Not from peace, but from pressure. The kind that crept under the skin and settled in the bones. Sergeant Bradley Cooper could feel it the second he stepped inside. Conversations stopped when he passed. Desks that once greeted him with nods now turned away. He brushed it off at first. Cops were fickle. They respected authority until it burned them, but today it was worse. Lieutenant Harris was waiting near the break room, arms folded. Brad, we need to talk. Cooper stiffened. Make it quick. I've got reports. In my office, Harris said, already walking away. Inside, blinds half drawn, the room smelled of stale coffee and paperwork. A man in a suit sat in the corner. Internal affairs. Cooper froze. What's this? Harris didn't answer. The IA agent rose, calm, clinical. Sergeant Cooper, we're reopening the Reeves case. Cooper's jaw tightened. I already gave my statement. And you'll give it again, the agent replied. There are discrepancies. Harris spoke up. Brad, the footage is circulating everywhere now. Someone leaked the unedited version. Cooper's stomach dropped. Unedited? Shows the first 2 minutes you left out of your report, Harris said quietly. The moment you stopped him. Cooper laughed bitterly. So what? I was doing my job. The guy was resisting. The IA agent set a tablet on the desk and hit play. The room filled with sound, rain, shouting, headlights flashing across Reeves's calm face. Then Cooper's voice. Don't move, boy. Silence followed. Harris's expression was stone. You realize what that word means on camera, right? Cooper's throat tightened. It was dark. It was tense. No excuse, the agent cut in. Especially for a man with 2 prior complaints for racial misconduct. Those were dismissed. Settled, Harris corrected. And this one won't be. Cooper turned toward the window. Outside, 2 young officers glanced through the glass before quickly pretending to look elsewhere. He felt something, unraveling. Not just his career, but the illusion of invincibility that came with the badge. So what happens now? He asked finally. The IA agent shut off the tablet. "We'll need your weapon and badge until review is complete." Cooper didn't move. Harris looked away. "Brad, don't make this harder." He slowly unhooked his badge, the metal heavy in his hand. It left a faint outline on his uniform, a ghost of authority fading fast. When the door closed behind him, whispers filled the hallway. Someone muttered, "Guess he picked the wrong guy this time." Cooper turned, eyes cold. "You say something?" The rookie officer stepped back. "No, sir." "Good." But the damage was done. Respect had shifted into quiet fear, a dangerous silence that meant they were already distancing themselves. Outside, rain began again, soft against the windows. Cooper stood at his locker, staring at his reflection in the dented metal. The man looking back wasn't a hero, wasn't even a protector. He was a headline waiting to happen. He punched the locker door, hard. Across the city, Judge Reeves sat in chambers reviewing motions. His staff avoided mentioning the news coverage that now dominated national networks. The unedited footage had gone viral. Public opinion had turned sharply. The same officers who had mocked him were now under review. Reeves remained silent in public, but privately he was methodical. He had ordered a subpoena for every internal report linked to Sergeant Cooper. Complaints, settlements, disciplinary files. A pattern was forming, a pattern the department could no longer hide. His clerk entered quietly. "Sir, the media is requesting a statement." Reeves didn't look up. "The law will speak for me." "Understood." He paused, pen hovering. "When men lose the illusion of consequence," he murmured, "they mistake fear for authority, until the law reminds them otherwise." Back at the precinct, Cooper was packing up when Harris approached again. "Brad, off the record, what happened that night?" Cooper zipped his bag. "Nothing different from 100 others. Only difference is, this one mattered to someone powerful." Harris sighed. "You crossed the line, man. Doesn't matter who he was. You did." Cooper looked up, eyes flaring. "You think I'm the only one? Half this department does worse every day. I just got caught." "That's the problem," Harris said quietly. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Harris added, "Reeves filed for full investigation into use of force training protocols. It's not just you on the line now." Cooper froze. "He's coming after the department?" "After the system," Harris corrected. "And if you're smart, you'll cooperate." Cooper laughed without humor. "He wants my career? Fine, but if I go down, I'm not going alone." Harris frowned. "That a threat?" "A fact." He slammed his locker and walked out. Outside, thunder cracked. Reporters waited near the steps. Microphones flashed like lightning. "Sergeant Cooper, do you have a response to the leaked footage? Did you know Judge Reeves before the arrest? Do you believe the system is racist?" He kept walking, jaw clenched, face pale under the stormlight. For the first time in years, Bradley Cooper felt something worse than guilt. Exposure. And somewhere behind those cameras, unseen but deliberate, Judge Reeves watched from a distant office window. The system was beginning to crack. The broadcast started at 8 sharp. Every network carried it. Every feed was live. Judge Malcolm Reeves stood behind the podium in a navy suit, the same calm expression that once commanded silence in court. But tonight there was no gavel, only the weight of truth pressing down like a verdict. Cameras blinked red. Dozens of reporters leaned forward, pens ready. He began slowly. "For days I remained silent, not because I was ashamed, but because I wanted the truth to surface on its own. Now that it has, I owe this nation clarity." His voice was steady, but his hands gripped the edges of the podium, knuckles white. "On the night in question," he continued, "I was stopped, handcuffed, and humiliated by Sergeant Bradley Cooper of the Metro Police Department. I complied with every instruction. My only crime was existing in the wrong skin." A ripple moved through the room. Cameras flashed. "I have spent my career upholding the law," Reeves said. "But the law is only as just as the people enforcing it. When power meets prejudice, justice dies in the dark." A reporter called out, "Judge Reeves, what outcome are you seeking?" He looked straight at the camera. "Accountability." Then he raised a folder thick with documents. These are internal reports spanning 7 years. Records of excessive force, falsified statements, and misconduct, all linked to Sergeant Cooper. Each one dismissed, buried, or paid off quietly. Murmurs erupted. Reporters jostled for copies. Reeves continued, "This isn't about one man's cruelty. It's about a system that protects it. Every supervisor who signed these dismissals shares the blame." In another part of the city, Cooper watched from a bar, drink untouched. The TV above the counter filled with Reeves's image. Each word landed like a hammer. "Damn," one officer muttered beside him. "He's got files?" Cooper stared, face pale. "He's bluffing." But then the screen flashed with scanned documents. Official signatures, timestamps, redacted names. No bluff. The bartender turned the volume up. Reeves's tone hardened. When a system punishes silence more than violence, reform becomes a moral necessity. I am calling for an independent commission to investigate the Metro Police Department, effective immediately. The room erupted again. Questions overlapped, flashes turned blinding, but Reeves wasn't finished. And to those watching, those who have suffered under the same uniform that swore to protect you, know this: the law still belongs to you. It was never theirs to corrupt. He stepped back from the podium. Cameras zoomed in on his face, calm but unsparing. This is not vengeance. It is correction. Then he walked away, no applause, no farewell, only the echo of footsteps and the storm outside rising in volume. That night, every major outlet replayed the speech. Hashtags spread like wildfire. Justice for Reeves. Cracks in the system. Your law and color at the precinct. Chaos ruled. Phones rang nonstop. The chief called emergency meetings. Statements were drafted, then retracted. Officers whispered about early retirements. Harris sat alone in his office, staring at a list of names Reeves had exposed. His own signature appeared twice, once approving a disciplinary dismissal. He felt the ground shift under him. Cooper barged in, breath ragged. "You seeing this?" Harris nodded. "You're finished, Brad." Cooper slammed the desk. "He's trying to bury me alive." "No," Harris said flatly. "You buried yourself." "He just dug up the evidence," Cooper's voice cracked. "You think I'm the only one? You think he won't come for the rest of us next?" "He won't have to," Harris replied. "Public will do it for him." Cooper turned away, shaking. "You don't understand. He's destroying the badge." "No," Harris said quietly. "He's trying to make it mean something again." Outside, reporters camped at the entrance. Officers sneaked out the back to avoid cameras. The once unshakable Brotherhood of Blue had fractured overnight. Meanwhile, Reeves sat in his study, lights dimmed. Lorraine placed a cup of tea beside him. "It's done," she said softly. "No," Reeves replied. "It's begun." He looked at the stack of messages on his phone. Calls from senators, activists, and victims of police misconduct. Each one thanking him. Each one pleading for help. Lorraine touched his shoulder. "You did the right thing," he didn't answer. His eyes lingered on the window where rain traced paths down the glass. "Right doesn't always mean safe." She knelt beside him. "You think they'll come after you?" "I think they already are." Outside, a black SUV idled across the street, unmarked, engine running. In the newsroom downtown, a young reporter reviewed the leaked footage again, frame by frame, every second of it now authenticated by multiple sources. "Run it full," her editor said, "and keep the judge's statement front page. The world needs to see what power looks like when it stops bowing." The headline was ready by midnight. Judge exposes systemic racism inside Metro Police. This is not vengeance. It's correction. At 2 a.m., Cooper drove aimlessly through the rain. His phone buzzed with messages from old allies now silent, distancing themselves. He pulled into a dark lot, gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. "He took everything," he muttered. A call came through. Unknown number. He answered. A low voice said, "Bradley Cooper, you've been named in a federal inquiry. You'll be contacted by investigators within 72 hours. Then the line went dead. He dropped the phone and sat in silence. For the first time there was no badge, no defense, no protection, only the truth. Public and merciless. Thunder rolled across the sky. And somewhere in the city's heart, the system began to crack wide open. The courtroom was silent, except for the hum of cameras and the shuffle of reporters filling the back rows. It wasn't a criminal trial yet, but the hearing had the weight of one. The inquiry into systemic misconduct within the Metro Police Department had begun, and every eye in the room was fixed on one man. Sergeant Bradley Cooper sat at the defense table, face drawn, eyes hollow. His uniform was gone. A plain gray suit hung awkwardly on his shoulders. Across from him, Judge Malcolm Reeves presided, not as the victim, but as the chair of the Oversight Commission he had demanded into existence. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The clerk called the session to order. Hearing on case review and disciplinary inquiry, Metro Police Department, internal oversight, convened under the authority of the Supreme Judicial Review Board. Chaired by Justice Malcolm Reeves, Reeves's gavel came down. Begin. A screen lit up behind him, displaying footage, unedited, unforgiving. Cooper's voice echoed through the chamber. "Don't move, boy." The room went still. Reeves's expression never shifted. His tone was neutral, judicial. "Sergeant Cooper, this footage has been verified as authentic. Do you deny making this statement?" Cooper's throat worked. It was dark, stressful, things got out of hand. "Answer the question," Reeves said. Cooper's eyes flickered. "No," Reeves nodded slightly. "You've served 15 years in the department. During that time, you faced 4 misconduct complaints, all closed without disciplinary action. Do you understand why you're here now?" Cooper's voice cracked. "Because I arrested the wrong man." A murmur rippled through the audience. Reeves leaned forward. "No, because you represented everything wrong with the system that protects men like you." Cooper met his gaze for the first time. "You think you're fixing the system by humiliating me?" "I think sunlight is the only thing that disinfects rot," Reeves replied. The panel members whispered among themselves. One leaned toward the microphone. "Sergeant Cooper, multiple officers have testified that your behavior was an open secret. You were protected because of your record and your connections. Do you dispute that?" Cooper's jaw clenched. "They're lying to save themselves." Reeves folded his hands. "Every man says that when truth finally arrives." The hearing continued, statements, files, testimonies. One officer admitted Cooper once bragged about putting people in their place. Another revealed how complaints were routinely rewritten to avoid racial terminology. Each word was a nail in the coffin of silence. At noon, Reeves called for closing remarks. "This commission will not decide criminal guilt, but we will establish accountability where it belongs." He paused, eyes sweeping the room. "The tragedy here is not that one man abused power. It's that dozens watched him do it and said nothing. That silence cost the city its integrity." Cooper slammed his fist on the table. "You're no better than me, Judge. You're using this to make yourself look holy." Security stepped forward, but Reeves raised a hand. "Let him speak." Cooper stood, shaking. "You think they care about justice? They care about you being a symbol. I was doing what we all do, what we were trained to do." Reeves's voice cut through the chaos. "Then the training is the crime." Silence again. Even Cooper seemed to realize he'd said too much. Reeves looked down at the file before him. "Sergeant Cooper, this inquiry finds sufficient evidence of racial bias, falsification of reports, and misuse of authority. You are hereby stripped of rank, denied pension, and referred to the Federal Justice Department for criminal review." The gavel struck once, final, echoing. Reporters leapt to their feet, questions flying. Cameras flashed like lightning. Cooper sank back into his chair, eyes vacant. The badge that once defined him now meant nothing. Reeves rose. "This session is adjourned." Outside, rain fell again, soft but relentless. Reeves walked down the courthouse steps, flanked by aides. Lorraine waited near the car, umbrella in hand. "It's over," she said. He shook his head. "It's never over." One man fell. "The system still stands." Lorraine looked at him. "But you made it bleed." He didn't answer, only glanced toward the crowd gathered by the steps, people holding signs, chanting his name. Some cried. Some simply stood in silence, as if unsure how to react to justice actually delivered. "Judge Reeves," a reporter called. "What message do you want to send to America tonight?" He paused, rain dripping from his hair. "That justice delayed is not justice denied, but justice buried. That's the death of a nation." Then he turned away. That evening, Cooper sat alone in his apartment, boxes stacked, curtains drawn. The television replayed the verdict. his face frozen mid-defiance. He turned it off. For years, he believed he was untouchable. Now the silence of his home mocked him louder than any crowd ever could. The phone rang, his lawyer. He ignored it. Another call came in, unknown number. He answered. A voice he recognized. Bradley Cooper. This is Special Agent Torres with the Department of Justice. We'd like to speak with you regarding new evidence in your case. Cooper closed his eyes. Of course you would, the agent continued. You'll receive a formal summons by morning. He hung up, walked to the window, and stared out at the city lights reflecting off wet streets. Every flash of lightning reminded him of camera flashes, of the moment his authority vanished. And for the first time, he wondered not about punishment but about meaning. Meanwhile, in his study, Reeves sat with a blank sheet of paper. Lorraine placed her hand on his shoulder. You should rest. He nodded but didn't move. You know, when I was cuffed that night, I thought it was the worst moment of my life. And now? Now I realize it was the moment I stopped serving the system and started serving justice. Lorraine smiled faintly. You sound like your father. He looked up. He'd have wanted this. Not revenge, correction. Rain continued outside, steady and cleansing. Reeves finally stood, closed the folder labeled Metro Inquiry and placed it in the cabinet. As he turned off the light, a distant thunder rolled. But this time it sounded less like threat and more like change. The city slept uneasy that night, but it slept knowing something had shifted. Justice had finally spoken and the silence was broken. 2 weeks after the hearing, the city had changed, but only on the surface. Billboards now carried slogans about reform. Politicians gave speeches about systemic reflection. Cameras had moved on to new scandals. Yet for those who lived beneath the headlines, the scars still ached. Judge Malcolm Reeves sat alone in his office overlooking the courthouse plaza. The city was quieter now, the protests replaced by rain and resignation. His desk was covered in letters, some thanking him, others accusing him of betrayal. The phone rang. It was the Chief Justice, Malcolm, the voice said, measured but tense. Washington's watching this closely. You've become symbolic. Symbols fade, Reeves replied. Laws endure. Don't underestimate symbols, the chief said. They change how laws are written. Reeves leaned back. Maybe, but they don't heal what's broken inside people. A pause. Take some time off, Malcolm. You've done enough. He hung up without replying. Outside, a group of schoolchildren walked past the courthouse, their umbrellas bright against the gray. One of them pointed up at the building and said something his teacher couldn't quite hear. But Reeves could imagine it. That's where the man who stood up to the police works. The thought landed heavy, not proud. Just heavy, Lorraine entered quietly. You're still here. You promised you'd rest. I don't sleep well when the city pretends it's fixed. She studied him. Then what now? He gestured to the window. Now we wait to see if justice has roots or if it was just another headline. Across town, Sergeant Bradley Cooper's apartment door rattled with the knock of federal agents. He opened it, eyes sunken, shirt half-buttoned. You could have just called. One agent handed him a document. Federal summons. Obstruction, falsification, civil rights violations. You'll need counsel present. Cooper laughed once, dry and bitter. Counsel. Right. As they left, he looked around his half-packed living room. Trophies, photos, plaques. The relics of a man who once believed the badge could shield him from consequence. He picked up one photo. Him and his precinct at a charity event, arms around each other, smiles rehearsed. He turned it face down. That evening, a televised town hall aired. Justice and Reform, What Comes Next? Reeves had declined to appear, but his name filled every question. A young black student spoke into the microphone. Judge Reeves showed that power can be held accountable. But why does it always take someone powerful for justice to matter? The audience went silent. The moderator stumbled. No answer came. The question lingered like smoke. At home, Reeves watched the broadcast from his couch. Lorraine sat beside him, her hand resting over his. You hear that? She said softly. Yes. They're looking to you. I don't want them to. Maybe you don't get to choose. He sighed. Then I'll redirect them. To the law, not to me. Lorraine smiled faintly. You always were a stubborn man. He looked at her. Would you rather I wasn't? Not for a second. Days passed. The federal investigation widened. More officers were suspended. Whistleblowers came forward. Internal memos leaked. The mayor announced a Department of Public Accountability, though Reeves doubted its sincerity. Still, the shift had started, small, imperfect, but real, and through it all, Reeves refused interviews. His silence now carried more weight than any speech could, but silence didn't protect him. Late one night, as he walked to his car, he noticed the rear tire slashed clean through. A note fluttered beneath the wiper. "You think you won. You didn't." He folded it carefully, placed it in his briefcase, and drove away in another car. No anger, just recognition. Change always invited backlash. The next morning, Lorraine found the note in his briefcase. "You didn't tell me." "It's not worth telling," he said. "It is when it's a threat." He met her eyes. "It's a reminder." "Of what?" "That truth doesn't make you safe. It makes you visible." Across the river in a federal detention center, Bradley Cooper sat behind a glass partition. His lawyer spoke through the phone. "They're offering a deal. Full cooperation in exchange for reduced sentencing." Cooper stared blankly. "They want names." "Yes, the supervisors, the ones who covered your reports." He leaned forward. "They'll eat me alive. They already are." For a long time, Cooper said nothing. Then quietly, "Fine, I'll talk." The lawyer nodded, jotting notes. "You're doing the right thing." Cooper gave a faint, humorless smile. "No, I'm just out of lies." Weeks later, a package arrived at Reeves's office, unmarked, hand-delivered. Inside were signed affidavits from Cooper, detailing years of internal cover-ups. Reeves read each one carefully. At the bottom of the last page, a handwritten note. "You were right. The system is the crime. BC." He stared at the note for a long time before sliding it into a file labeled Evidence of Reform. For the first time in months, he allowed himself to breathe. That night, he and Lorraine stood on the balcony overlooking the quiet city. The rain had stopped. "You think it'll last?" she asked. Reeves looked toward the courthouse dome, its lights glowing faintly. "Justice doesn't last. It has to be fought for every day." She rested her head on his shoulder. "Then fight. Just remember to live too." He nodded slowly. "Maybe that's what justice really is. Learning to live after you've seen the truth." They stood in silence as dawn broke. The city washed clean by the storm that had finally passed. Far below, the courthouse steps were empty again. But in the stillness, something remained. An echo of defiance, of truth spoken aloud, of a silence broken that could never be restored. In the end, there were no celebrations. No victory banners. Only a city learning slowly, painfully, what justice actually costs. And in that quiet truth, perhaps, lay the real verdict.